Open Public Meetings Act notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Okay, so this is a combined meeting. We have a work session followed by a public meeting. And just for the edification of our public tonight, public comment will be taken during the public meeting.
Followed by a closed session.
So, the first item to be considered is the county clerk mobile office services. And I know we talked about this briefly, and I think there was a consensus that we were going to ask the county clerk to put us on the schedule.
We actually, well, we haven't been on the schedule yet, but we did get some additional information, because I think Councilman Park also followed up.
So it's 3 days. I got both the email. Do you have it on you?
Yes. The representative from the county clerk's office, who's the outreach person, is Anthony Andrade. He's the community outreach specialist. The information is in the administrator's memo.
Yes.
They will set up for 3 days in Tenafly, either the council chambers or the McCandless room.
We can choose where, yeah.
Which we can choose which one we want.
Yep.
They provide passport services, both new applications as well as renewals. They take pictures for the passports as well as renewing notaries and officiating the oath of office for notaries. They can take free photo ID cards for seniors and veterans and exempt firefighters. And these cards can be used to verify an individual's status for obtaining discounts that are offered by various vendors. They require a 30-day lead time, during which the service is promoted by their office as well as the borough. And pending the council's approval, they generally coordinate with the borough clerks and to determine the best date and location. You confirm the timing with the county, and then they will begin publicizing the
Should we
event.
do it after when the newsletters goes out so we can advertise at the same time? That way people know about it?
Well, it doesn't fit well into the 30-day time frame, because the next newsletter won't be until May. Do you want to wait that late? Or you pretty much, I mean, you're looking at April for the most part right now.
I mean, it's nothing we need to rush to it.
No, yeah, it's not,
Like,
it doesn't sound like an
We don't need
emergency.
the clerk's office
Well,
here
if
back.
we're looking at April now, what's the difference, April and May?
Okay.
Let's do it in May and get it in the newsletter.
So,
The deadline
right,
is
so
Yeah, I was gonna say-
soon, though.
yeah, preferably after the, I guess after the 15th, so that we ensure, because that wouldn't be the only form of advertisement. That's what I'm saying. The county advertises it as well. We would put it on the website. We
Right,
would
right.
put it on
Message
the
board.
message board. We could even, I mean, because it affects the whole community, we could even do a call for it.
I think a call is a very good idea, because not everybody's going to see they're going to miss one or the other.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
When they
what
call,
I
to
said.
That's
complain that
fine.
we're calling too often, tell them Councilwoman Shama suggested it.
She can do the call.
Yeah, your voice should be the one.
Right.
Yeah, we have to.
Okay,
steer.
next is overnight parking in Lot F. I want to thank our borough attorney for getting that done.
Lot F is the
Lot
one
F
near
is
the
Lot F is on
by
Franklin.
that little corner lot
Right.
behind
It's
the
behind
railroad.
Wells Fargo.
Wachovia,
Yeah.
And we're looking for, 6 spaces?
6 spaces.
At the far corner.
Okay.
It would be opposite, basically, the Elks Club. And this is
Okay.
for residents in that area that might have an issue with off-street parking. This was started by a woman who lives in the garden apartments just below the new development, which are condos. And I guess originally there was 1 space per apartment, and now that doesn't seem to be adequate. But this is not necessarily going to be publicized, because we'll get an overflow. So if a resident comes in and asks us, they can apply for it. Mayor and council grant them permission, and then they have to pay the same amount other residents are paying that live on J Street. There's a specific lot for them, which is what, $100 or $200 a year?
I think it's $150.
$150 a year.
It's the same as everybody else pays.
The ordinance says that it's based as a commuter, because the commuters pay, residents as commuters pay 150.
150.
The people who live on J Street that pay for a tenant, they only pay a $25 deposit. And that is a one-time deposit in case they lose the permit. They don't pay anything annually. Commuters pay the 150 annually.
Well, I tied it into the regular payment that the resident would pay.
Why are we having this come to the mayor and council for approval of each permit? Can't we just handle it administratively?
Is the-
Well, that's
yeah.
a good question. I think it's based on need, so we didn't want, since we had to open it up to everyone, we don't want someone who's on the north side of town to say, oh, you know, I need extra space. It should be on the basis of need, so I think the best way to control it would be through mayor and council.
This is a specific need, you know, somebody that lives in the area,
Right.
for some reason or other, which we decide is legitimate, they don't
Like a
have
pod or something?
off
Same sort
the
of
street
concept.
parking. And-
Okay.
Yeah, it's really to control a need in a geographic area, you know, so.
But we can't say that.
You know,
It's not
it would probably be
appropriate.
unfair to say that, so we say
I agree.
based on demonstrated need, so, you know, we could easily control it this way.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question is, this is between 6 PM and 5 AM,
Right, when no one else is parking in that lot.
which is okay. What about during the time of 5 AM to 6
You
PM?
know, why did you find?
Would they be allowed
I thought it
to
was supposed
park
be
there?
9
No,
Well, anyone can park there between those
the
hours.
commuter parking there is.
With
Five to
with a-
six, right?
With a
Five.
with a parking.
It says
permit.
5 AM to 6 PM.
I did 6 because I thought that 5 was kind of early, and the lot's underused.
The
Since-
question is, what happened during the day? Here, they get a permit to park at night only.
Right.
So if they leave the car to, let's say, 8 o'clock, are they gonna be ticketed?
Well, they're not supposed to be there, yeah.
So what-
But here's the thing,
No.
that lot is underused.
Bill, I thought we said 6 to 9, because otherwise, you're gonna ask them to get up at 5 in the morning and
Yeah, that's
move
a
the
little-
car?
I didn't want too much of an overlap.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you
It's not
want.
an overlap.
It is an overlap.
Well, these are the 6 spaces that never get used, and this is overnight parking. You can't ask the people to get up at 5 in the morning to move the car.
I'll do whatever,
Good, just-
whatever times you
Let's
want,
discuss
but the
something
point,
rational.
the
Let's
thing is
discuss some
that the
rational.
entire lot
Yeah.
has 5 AM is the start for commuter parking.
Yeah, we
I
understand.
didn't overlap to 6, because I figured, you know.
There is
if-
logic in what you did, no question about that. But now,
Don't
for this
forget,
one,
each
doesn't
one
make
of these
sense.
6 spaces is gonna have a sign in front of it. And the sign can say 6 to 9 overnight parking. So
Okay.
just change it to 9, please.
All right, that's fine. Yeah,
Obviously.
I thought that.
What is 6
Where
to
is it?
9?
There is
Where
no
is
such
6
a
to
thing.
9?
Here it is.
6 PM to 9 AM.
When it gives
6 PM
people-
to 9 in the morning.
It gives people that have the permit, which will be displayed on in their car,
Oh,
the right
yeah.
to sleep over, to leave the car overnight. But we don't wanna make them get up at 5 in the morning.
So 6 PM
To
to
9
6.
AM.
To 9 AM.
9 AM, okay.
Well, I had 6, but
You had 5 actually.
that was it
Says
5?
5.
Yeah.
So it's a 9 AM, yeah, it's 6.
Okay,
That's
so
that's
that's
fair.
you.
But, you know.
And then they have
That's
to
not
get
making it
out
more
of there.
difficult. Just
No,
change it.
And
that's
then they
fine,
might
that's
not.
fine.
They can put it on the street.
If
Yeah,
we have a
whatever
sign
they
there,
want.
that's fine, but I didn't want,
We're gonna
some,
have signs in front of each space.
yeah, I didn't want someone park saying,
that's
you know, I
good.
wanna park there at
Now-
5 AM and,
Yeah.
Somehow, you know, those people,
well, I'm trying to make it consistent with what we have.
Yeah.
I know, but that doesn't make any sense. It's consistent, but it doesn't make any
So
sense.
if
It's
six-
consistent, it usually
Yeah,
makes
just-
sense.
So if
But
6
we're making it
permits are
listen for a
approved,
second.
does number 7 go on
we
the
somehow
waiting
have
list?
to tell them, part of this resolution, that does not allow them to park over there during the day clearly.
No, but there'll be a sign.
Now it's gonna be a
If you
sign.
put a sign up that says, for these 6 spots,
Yeah.
it's from this time,
From 1.
because
Only for
That's
that
all.
sign.
Oh,
normally lot F
the
is
entire
from
lot,
5 o'clock
the
in the
entire
morning.
lot has commuter parking.
Yes.
In
Right.
front of these 6 spaces, there will be overnight parking from 6 PM to 9 AM,
Permit
allowed
only.
by permit only.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Just
perfect.
But
for
during the
this-
day,
During the
They
day,
fall into
other
the
people
other
can
rules.
park in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
After
And-
9 AM, I think commuter can park.
Correct.
Exactly, so that,
Correct.
those are the things that, you know, I think we should put over here. Outside the
three
existing
sides.
hours, they are becoming a regular commuter parking place, something like that.
The sign.
No, they'll
the
be
sign
gone,
was saying
because they'll be gone.
Let's
by-
not overthink this.
Yeah,
There's a
sign
big
was
sign
said.
in the lot that says,
All right.
Commuter parking.
For these
Park,
6
yeah.
spaces, okay.
Yeah.
This is
That's
just an
fine.
amendment to the ordinance, right?
Right, that's an amendment, yes.
thank you.
All right, so I'll change the nine.
Should we summarize that or pass?
No.
Please don't.
That's very easy, I'll just change the time.
Next is Hyla Park sound system proposal from the Chamber of Commerce.
So the HPC is okay with this?
seems
Here's
so.
what, if I could just for a minute, the HPC is fine with it. Alice Rigney and some of the bandstand community, the citizens group that paid for the bandstand, just want to be sure that the integrity of the bandstand is not disturbed when the sound system is installed. Now, Christine has promised she's actually going to show up and supervise the day that the installation happens. And then if Alice's friend, the designer, Carl Pissarro, wants to be there, we'll know the date he can be there too.
Okay.
So
Well,
it seems,
Just want to make sure one thing. The installation of the system does not mean that we give permission for the sound system to be on without the permission of the council.
No. This is a park,
Yeah,
and they have to get anything that goes on in
That's
this
right.
park
Has to have a
requires a permit.
exactly.
It's
That's
just
what I
that
want to make sure.
what we have here now is a sound system that these activities may or may not use, depending on what the activity is. Now, the sound system will belong to the borough?
Yes.
Okay, so the borough basically will oversee this, and the only thing I would ask is, if we're going to go to this trouble and expense of putting in a sound system, let's make sure that it would work for the concerts.
It can't.
It can't?
It
Why?
can't. It needs a very different speaker system. It needs a different speaker system, and it was much more expensive. This can only work for recorded music. If you have something like a USB or a radio broadcast or a wireless broadcast, if you put a band through it, it would blow the speakers.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, I
You're
don't.
spending $15,000 on a sound system that speakers would be blown? I think you ought to get a.
I think we need
No.
a second.
Really?
I think you ought to look
I
around
agree
and
with you
find a
there.
different
If you're
system.
doing a concert, they should be able to use the sound system.
And then
and
for
start
what is
bringing
going to be
another
used? If
And then
we
if
need
they're,
it
then they're not the
Memorial
right
Day,
speakers for speaking.
for
There's,
for PA
I do a lot of
announcing
events in the
or-
county. You can
Yeah.
either, you're talking about installing one of the phone poles and whatever.
He sings
One phone call.
Really?
One phone pole that will go for the street for Memorial Day, when we have the crowds there.
Uh-huh.
And the others are just small speakers off of the bandstand, so that you can, if you're having something like the holiday parade in the park and you want to hear the madrigal singers, it's a speaking system.
So the Madrigal Singers could use the sound system.
Yes.
But a
Concert
rock
concert.
group could not.
School of Rock could not. They usually have their own speakers.
Well, most
Yeah.
most if not all of my concerts have their own systems, but it seems a little ridiculous
It
to spend
does.
$15,000 on a sound
Absolutely.
system
Yeah.
and not be able to use it for concerts.
Can you look into like an alternative where,
We
how
put
many,
it-
how many events do you think there are? in
Full
that park?
range.
Well, right now, there's none, really, except Memorial Day and then these
and then-
concerts.
and then
You know, for example, I brought in an a cappella group last year. I had to bring in
An
a sound
acapella
system.
group could do it. They're talking about big band systems, like, or School of Rock.
Well, you're talking
systems,
about
they're
an electric
amplifiers.
guitar that usually uses an amplifier.
Their own amplifier, yes.
They can't use the sound system.
Right.
I don't think that it's going to be
Well,
used.
I'm not a sound person, but
Yeah, but just
I'm
it
just-
sends me.
How do you,
Maybe
what
we
about
look at
a
something
Yeah.
different.
like a more mobile system where it's like on the
See, here's what-
speakers for a band and set it up for every event rather than permanently having such a weak system?
I mean,
But that's not such a weak system. there are a lot of uses
Well,
you can put for something like
but,
this.
Well,
but the
like-
sound systems that our bands use,
Mhm.
okay, I don't know that any band comes with more than $15,000 worth of equipment. It's usually a lot less. And you could use those for Memorial Day. So I'm saying, why can't we get a sound system that's compatible to a band as well as speakers?
I had a financial limit on this. I mean, we had subject.
Just saying.
15,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
That's a
I
lot
can
of
go
money.
back and find out how much more it will be for speakers that will handle a big band sound as
Or,
well.
What-
or just
what-
more speakers, some additional speakers.
No, it's not.
No,
Like full
what would
range.
be better
Full
to say?
range.
Actually, these are
speakers.
full range to cover the park. It's
Yeah.
apparently that the volume of the sound, I'm not electrical engineer, I'm
So let's,
Well, can I ask you,
Sure.
looking, how many speakers does this include? You're saying it's gonna, 5, and they're gonna be hung from where? From trees?
One from the electric pole that is directly opposite the steps. The other 4 two are going north, facing north, and the other 2 are going facing west.
But hang on what? They're gonna be hanging on?
They're hanging on the edge of the bandstand,
On the edge of
on the
the
concrete
fence.
part of the bandstand. They're gonna be like drilled.
I would suggest
Let's get a
that we
second.
approve the concept, the fact that we're willing to allow this, but I would urge you
Because the
to
concept
maybe,
is a gift.
yeah,
so-
bring in our borough engineer, or let him bring in somebody that has a knowledge. I mean, I'm looking at all the
Dan,
equipment,
what about
all the equipment
I
you have
think-
listed here, and yet,
I don't think you have to go as far as the borough engineer. I
But
think
Dan, you do
just-
events all the
Yeah,
time.
I do at the county, but we set up temporary speakers, like the big,
Yeah.
like the ones you see at concerts.
Yeah,
They're like,
right.
Yeah.
quite heavy. There's a whole crew for them. You just hook it up into a mixer. If there's a mic, you plug that into the mixer.
well, I can understand what she's trying to do
Is make it
is set up
permanent.
a permanent system, so you just
plug
plug
it
it in,
in.
plug it in, and you go,
Works.
which is
But on
fine.
the flip side, if
But-
you're doing 4 events a year,
Mark?
Yeah, why don't we,
What if I
why
have
don't
a
we,
system?
Christine, why
It
don't you
could
just
jump,
go,
right.
Hope
it
to be
could
much
jump.
more.
why don't you just go
Yeah.
back to DeBella and
And
find
ask
out what it will
what the-
cost, be
the additional that it
incremental,
costs.
and then we can have
I
a
wouldn't even
discussion.
ask what it will cost. I said, the council said for $15,000, we need speakers that can take care of the concerts. Done.
I would even
Well,
start the
I mean, the chamber really wants to be able to put things like the
Yes.
speaking
Yes.
for the
Yeah,
holiday parade.
all of them. So you can say for
We're
$15,000.
not looking to preclude what activities that you're
Different speakers.
suggesting, but what we're saying, it really should be included.
I will ask them.
Okay.
And that's for $15,000, he should find all those things without a problem. Maybe less
I will ask
margin,
him.
but should be no problem.
Okay, so
You
let us
start-
know what they say.
Maybe you start the school with Mr. Miller.
Okay, next is
Sound guy.
the
He
administrator's report.
recommended Odell. I talked to him.
Administrator's report.
He recommended it. Mr. Mogert, the band.
Let's begin with the budget meeting schedule. If you had the opportunity to take a look at this, what we're looking to do, we had originally planned to have the auditor, along with the CFO, at the committee of the whole meeting on March 1st. The auditor, as you know, has been working here with the finance department, and what they're looking for is about an additional week to make their presentation to council. So they're asking if we can reschedule the auditor's portion for Tuesday, March 8th. We would still have the finance director at the committee of the whole meeting on March 1st, because basically her role would have been to just bring the council up to date and confirm the changes to the budget that arose from the budget hearings themselves. After March 1st, there will still be a need, as Susan explained previously, for her office and the auditor to also possibly make some additional tweaks to the budget. But as of right now, the auditor is confident that we can still make the March 22nd deadline for introduction. I've spoken to Lizette, and I think Lizette has a suggestion on how to
Yeah, so-
restructure the meeting.
What we could do is, since the 8th is a regular meeting, make it a combined work session meeting where the only item on that work session is for the auditor, and the way we have the meeting set up is the regular meeting immediately follows. So on the 8th, we'll still meet here at 7:30, and the auditor will present their findings and recommendations, and after that, we just resume regular business.
Do you feel a need to start at 7 rather than 7:30?
No, it would be same start, 7:30.
What happens the first then?
No, the first is our regular work session. Susan will still be here
Got it.
to give an update on the proposed changes before anything is finalized.
Correct. And there's no problems. It's really just the need for a little bit more time because of the fact that we got started a little later in 2015 on reconciling the general audit BCUA agreement. As you know, we have a shared service with the BCUA. Tried to give you a little background. We were aware that the contract that we currently have with the BCUA was going to expire on May 31st. So by about this point, we figured that they would be probably going for an extension, which is what they are requesting. So they've sent us a revised agreement for processing and signature. It would give us an additional year. And two things of note is that the company ADS, who is currently the named location, has restructured, and they have changed their business name to Covanta for Recovery LLP. So the BCUA has accepted this change, and within the scope of the agreement, they assign the contract to the new company. And just as a matter of background, just to give you an idea of the savings that we're realizing from this. Prior to 2013, we were paying $80 a ton for disposal, and as of right now, we're paying $65.35. So we've been realizing a significant savings for the past 3 years. Under the new contract, the price would go up to $68 per ton, but that would be the first increase in 4 years.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that former Councilman John Warms is now on the board of directors, and that's why the price is going up?
I'll tell him you said that. No, I don't think so. I think it's just the normal course of business. So we do have a resolution on tonight's agenda to authorize us to sign that agreement with BCUA and extend this arrangement for 1 year.
Joe,
Okay.
how is this going to impact our financials? How much we're paying now, how much we're going to pay next?
Well, that's built in. I mean,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
the new budget numbers are based on 6.
So
Based on
they are
60, correct.
built on.
Yep.
That's-
And we talked about the clerk's mobile office. The teen center summer trips, just a quick update, when we had the discussion during the teen center's budget hearing, there was just some clarification that was requested with regard to the new camp that they're instituting, the travel camp, and there was some clarification to be made that the camp is not an overnight or long-distance travel camp, that it's basically an expanded version of the day trips that they normally take, but they're adding additional trips, and most importantly, they're adding the option of allowing campers to go just on the trips, which has been a frequent request from year to year. So we ran this by Carol Byrne, our insurance commissioner, who also reviewed it with our risk manager at Eifert French, and she confirmed, as you can see in writing, that there's no additional insurance required, and basically this would be covered under our existing excess accident coverage policy. Affordable Care Act compliance, which you've probably heard quite a bit about. Just wanted to let you know that the borough has met its requirements. There is a form called a 1095C form, which unfortunately is a little confusing because although on our W-2s it reflects the amount that individual employees pay towards the health insurance premiums, the 1095 is actually a form that is geared to the IRS determining whether or not the minimum coverage that we apply for each of our employees meets the minimum coverage standards of the Affordable Care Act. We have to give the information to the IRS, but under the law, we also have to give a copy to the employees. So it's created a lot of confusion. It doesn't create any liability, any tax liability, but under the federal statute, anything that we submit to the IRS on behalf of the employees, we also have to give them a copy. We have given everybody a copy of the website, so if they're interested in looking into what the 1095C form is about, they can read it and get a headache from those IRS instructions.
Do you also provide 1095B?
No, we just have to do C. There are different eligibilities. We're responsible for C. We're eligible under C. The Cadillac tax, which is the tax that I believe that this requirement actually ties into, was initially going to go into effect as of January 1st, 2018. We would have had to have started to plan for it in 2017. And that was the tax, as you know, that we're under the Affordable Care Act. If you have what's considered a rich or generous health insurance program that exceeds the federal minimum requirements, that the employer would have to pay a 40% tax on the difference. And that law has now been delayed. It's now scheduled to go into effect as of January 1st, 2020. And then finally, the 5 South Summit environmental testing was requested to provide a copy of the report, which is linked to the agenda. And you asked for a more detailed breakdown of the cost, the $49,000 cost, which was also provided.
Joe, I looked at that, I'm sorry, you want
Go
to?
ahead, no, please.
I looked at that, and that basically says asbestos remediation, like $8,500. Then the removal, the debris, destroying, whatever you want to call it, $20,000, and then another $20,000 for the removal. Once the asbestos is remedied, basically taken out, we can basically take that down, put a backhoe, put it in a dumpster, and be done. I can't see how $40,000 will be required once the asbestos is gone. It's basically put it in a dumpster and throw it away.
That may sound logical, but it has to do with DEP permitting. That's why you had to
Right.
do a detailed study. Look at the study.
I understand, but
Yeah.
we have asbestos basically, I'm gonna bring it over here.
I understand what you're saying, but
Once it's done.
not,
That's
it's
not
not
the
our
process.
rules, it's the DEP
State
rules.
guidelines.
How to dispose of it.
Could I ask,
after
I have
it's
a question, so,
Yeah.
right, because I've taken down houses, so asbestos abatement, the 8,000 to 9,000, does that include removal of the
No.
asbestos tiles?
That's what that is.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not the removal
It's
from the
not the
site.
disposal, it's the removal from inside the building. You cannot bring the building down with the asbestos
I
tiles in
understand that,
place.
so, but does the $9,000, I understand the asbestos cost. Does that include removing the tiles and taking it to wherever it has to go?
That's part of disposal.
So the 9,000 just
It's just
physically
removed.
takes them out of that structure?
Out of the structure.
Out of the structure. But they
Okay.
have to be taken out in a way that you don't break them up.
Yeah,
Sure.
and you
Wasn't
don't
fried.
create more
And
Yeah,
cause-
asbestos.
yeah,
So-
right.
In the
Airborne,
air.
right.
Asbestos, taking the asbestos out of the picture for a second. I mean, taking down an entire house costs about $35,000 to $40,000.
Yeah.
So I don't understand, is this going out for public bid? I don't understand how it could be $40,000 to take down.
That's exactly what I
building.
had the question.
I just, from past experience, I don't
Yeah.
understand that.
Well, you-
Asbestos aside, I get the 9,000 for the asbestos.
But you keep saying asbestos aside. Asbestos is the whole problem. That is the whole basis of the
It's like a
issue. That's why it
specialty.
becomes under
It's like a s-
DEP
but-
requirements.
so-
But once you
You can't
abate, once you
separate.
abate it.
Once you abate it, there's no
the problem
asbestos
goes
there.
away.
No, there's a process. I mean,
It's
No,
on-
no, once you
No,
abate
once you
something,
abate, it's over.
once they do the asbestos abatement in anything, once the abatement is, the asbestos is moved and everything has been, they've been given a clean bill of health, the air monitoring, everything's done, now the building can be taken down normally. Just
Yeah,
any
with
other
a
building.
hammer if you
Our
want.
DPW could take it down with a backhoe.
Yeah.
you're saying that disagrees with what our borough engineer is saying. That disagrees with
Maybe
what our
we should have
remediation
a-
specialist
He's
is
a
First
saying.
of
borough
all,
engineer.
first of all, look,
Do every day.
I would suggest our borough engineer is on vacation this week. I would ask him to come to the next meeting that he's available to come to
Explain
discuss
that.
this.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
meantime,
question.
in the meantime, this is not a budget item, this is a capital item.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not gonna have an immediate impact on the taxpayer. We'll put it into the capital. If we don't need or use all $49,000, we don't. But in one way or the other, this building has to come down.
I think we all agree with that.
So
yes.
There's no
let's
question about that.
leave it in the budget for now and let the engineer come in and I actually
yep.
tried to call him today, but he's on vacation. So let him come in the next meeting that he's available and better explain to us the process.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then you have your copies of your snow reports, and as I said, you had the 5 South Summit lead abatement report, or asbestos abatement report. And that's it.
Okay, let's go on to correspondence. We have a letter asking for an extension for the pod, which we normally give. Lisette, Would you just check and make sure that, I believe they've only had one 90-day period,
Yes.
so just make a note that this would be the final one.
And by the way, they have 2 pods now. They have a trailer
Bob
and a pod.
Bob Burns took note of that when
During the budget?
yeah, so he's gonna check on that, I think.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing.
And by the way, they had a pod for more than a year. I'm okay with that.
I believe that, yeah, they came to us after they were told you can't have a pod without
Exactly.
permission.
And now they have 2 of them, a
Is it
trailer
right- Is
and
it
a pod.
across the street from your house?
By the street, and it's not
You
a
put
pod.
the
it's
second one in
half-
your, put the second one in your name.
The third one in my name, yeah. My wife's.
Okay.
Okay.
The next one is a letter from the Agners. She actually had called me, and I asked of the borough engineer to put this street on, you know, to inspect the street, he and Bob Culbert, and perhaps it needs to go on the list for next year.
Yeah.
However, keep in mind that North Lisle is one of 3 streets. Tony, can you give me a hand? What are the 2 parallel streets?
Browning.
Huh? Browning?
Clinton and River Edge, you mean?
Yeah.
Jewett?
It's Browning
North Browning?
and is it Jewett?
Jewett.
And
Yeah.
all 3 are the same. They're not in great shape. They don't have any curbs at all.
Yeah.
So what you find is there's ponding just about in front of every driveway, which she and also there's no storm drains on the street.
Yeah,
so
it's really
even if you
bad shape.
even if you wanted to take the water off the street,
There's nowhere to go.
there's nowhere for it to go. The only other non-engineering solution that I thought of is you raise the street a little bit, the water goes onto the lawns, and the lawns act as like a rain garden. But I'm not sure residents would want that either. 'Cause it's
That sounds like a can of worms.
it's a very difficult situation, but the condition of the road
Are bad.
is not good. So
It's really bad.
we'll let them
So
know.
are we gonna put it on the?
Well, the engineer will review it and decide if it, where it is a priority list.
They're working, yeah, right, they're
Costs.
working on the cost estimates now, so we'll tell them to put it on the list.
Okay.
Last is,
at least
but
for
not
the list.
least, is another letter about the tennis courts on, down by the Little League field, Roosevelt Common, and I'd like to suggest that we put this on the list of, for joint use, and maybe we should have a joint use meeting.
So is this on Board of Ed property or borough property?
It's on borough property, but a good percentage of the use, this is kind of the opposite of the track and Geisinger Field. It's on our property, but they get a tremendous, the schools get a tremendous amount of use of it. Their high school teams play their matches and practices on it. During the day, the middle school kids often, you know, the gym classes go on it. So they get plenty of use out of it. And in the past, we've kind of co-opted with them on this. So,
Just to throw it out, I know that we're not talking about it now, but it's because I had conversations on the rec board recently about boosters and raising money to go towards facilities. Maybe there's something creative we can do here to get some outside financial help to help pay
well,
for this.
I had suggested a number of times that there was some interest at one time from the owner of the indoor courts to give us serious assistance on it, and in return wanted to be able to use the courts during the day, during the summer, Monday to Friday, when these courts are relatively empty. And there seemed to be no interest, no interest from anybody on that.
Well, we didn't even know about that.
Well, and about 8
It was
years
about a year
ago,
ago or 2
8
years
years
ago.
ago, he made a donation and actually resurfaced the courts on his own,
That's very
Wow.
nice.
which was
So
very
that's
nice.
very
Is
He
he
did-
still interested?
But now, well, I don't know, because he came to me 2 or 3 years ago. I never got anywhere with it, so
Well,
I
maybe-
don't
Maybe
know.
it's done.
Maybe we should approach him to see if he's still interested.
Yeah,
People
worth
think
it,
it's a possibility,
worth
right?
an ask.
Yeah.
To me, it was a
That doesn't
pretty,
create any
yeah.
issues.
it was a no-brainer.
It seems like a no-brainer. and-
Right,
can lease it.
unfortunately, now
We
they
can lease it
need
for
more than a
$1.
resurfacing, they need to be reconstructed.
Well, maybe he can be, he can do like a partial help.
That's what they.
Well, I had looked, this is just my thinking. I was looking for a 3-way partnership between the Board of Ed, ourselves, and
Absolutely.
an outsider.
There's already
Yeah.
companies
Do-
on our property.
Do we actually concur that they need to be reconstructed?
Well,
Because Andy was asked to.
Andy's not, Andy doesn't think it needs to be reconstructed, but
He thinks that the new coatings that they're using,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
Yeah, maybe
very-
it doesn't, maybe it
The
should
new
need a
coating is
reconstruction.
really good, the ones I,
Done right.
you know, there's a lot, there's
yeah,
a little bit of additional work that,
What I mean,
I think it's been agreed that there's probably a very large tree that needs to come down because the roots are coming up through the court. And also, some of the fencing in the entranceway needs to be redone. I mean, in all honesty, this is a facility that other towns, you know, high school teams, some of our high school teams has gone as far as to win the state tournament.
yeah.
And other visiting teams come here, and it's really not up to standard.
Let me just,
I think we
Peter,
should
just
look,
ask a
we should
question
talk to
here.
both Ed and the
I'm sorry?
outside part.
The skate park has been covered with graffiti. Why is that not been taken care of?
Well,
It's not a cost
I don't think you were at the meeting where we
Probably
talked
ambiance.
about, it was agreed upon that the landscaping would have to be cut back to create more visibility. Unfortunately, the skate park is pretty well hidden. It's difficult to see from the road. And just open it up a little bit.
No, I was here for that, but I'm saying, clearly you see graffiti on the structure here.
This is the tennis courts.
It's a no-brainer.
But I can't dispute it, Tom.
Is that not skate park?
Yeah, that's behind it, you can see it, you see the
Yeah.
graffiti.
Okay, anyway, that's it for correspondence. Anybody have any questions on the resolutions?
No,
Yeah, he's right.
Don't let me down, Max.
no, I'll let you down this time.
Okay, okay, if that's it, we can entertain a motion to close the work session?
I think we have a good of the order.
All right, go to the order. Oh, okay, senior center building, thank you. Tony, both of these items were, you asked to talk about them, so,
Really?
I think it's,
There's no attachment.
I think it's due time that us as a body, we really start to seriously think about the formation and the construction of a brand-new senior center building. Now, my good friend and colleague, Mr. Zena, came up with an idea that I think, if approached in the right direction and if the right people were brought in, it may be advantageous for us as a community, a huge plus for the seniors in Tenafly. We talked about last meeting, at the budget meeting, we talked about the parking lot right next to the TV building that's getting torn down. And maybe we can work out a swap with CBS, that we can take that property as well as the building next door.
Take which property? Sorry, I didn't get that.
The
CVS?
privately owned
Private
parking lot that has
Okay.
signs, no
Okay,
parking.
all right.
Yeah,
And build onto that property and build a senior center on the first floor with apartments on the subsequent upper floors. Have a contractor come in and do that, and he would reap the benefits of the apartments, where we would reap the benefits of a brand-new senior center.
Who would reap the benefits of apartments?
Well, the developer.
Developer. I think it's certainly a thought in the right direction.
So, when you're done,
But I think it's high time that we start the ball rolling, you know. Just in the past year, I've heard, or 6 months, I've heard a lot of conversations about a community center, but no discussion about a senior center.
Well, I think if
No.
you're going to discuss the senior center in any way, shape, or form, you ought to bring in some representatives of the seniors. Otherwise, they, and rightfully so, they get very upset that we're talking about things without any input from them. Now,
Peter, we're a long way from that.
Well,
You have
but
to start, you have to start planting the seed, and then we can bring them in to water it, okay?
they want to be in on the ground floor, Tony.
I fully understand.
but the
So
idea.
maybe it's something that we should, Mayor, if you could put together a committee to start exploring our different possibilities of constructing a brand-new senior center.
Okay.
I think it would
I've
be.
got two committees, I've got a committee on Orozco Park that hasn't met yet, and I yet to put together the committee. I described it on reorg day about downtown, but we'll form a committee for the seniors center as well, and if you'd like to be on it, I'll be in touch with you, and I think Max, you're
Oh, absolutely.
also want to be on it, so.
Yeah, and I think that the idea is very good, and even though it's yours, it's good.
It's okay. I'm just saying, I can't be on that committee. I'm on other committees.
Well, at this point, but
So Mike, do you want to just hear the theory?
Yes,
yes,
go
that's
ahead.
what
So
I'll
you
be-
discussed
that'll
it
be-
with me
So
too.
assuming the seniors like the idea and everyone, goes along, the idea is we own the land. So the best way to use that land, have a developer come in, proper bidding processes, everything gets vetted, and so the developer puts the new building up. We have the senior center at no cost to the borough because we own the land, and the developer doesn't have to pay for the land. And they get to build, market rate housing or affordable housing for seniors who want to stay in town and give up their 4-bedroom house and instead move into a 1-bedroom condo or something like that with less taxes, less cost. And so the developer makes his money on the residential housing, and we get a senior center for free.
okay. The one part of the mix that I'd like to add to that, and once again, this is all preliminary, is
Completely.
when we're talking about apartments on the floors above the, so I would like to create senior housing, okay? Now, anytime you place a restriction on it, it adds a little to the mix for the developer. I'm not
Of course.
suggesting that we have all affordable housing, but there's a desperate need for senior housing, and maybe even veterans, or something like that. I'd like to do something, we certainly don't want to add to our COA requirements.
Right.
Hopefully, we can, and we're
That's a
really,
good idea.
we're
Yeah,
really
put
not
it all into the
limited.
mix, I
Yeah.
agree.
The key to it is the parking lot that we don't own yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
and I actually have the guy's number on my desk. I didn't have a chance to call him
Let's
today
dial.
because I wanted to investigate whether he'd be willing, at this point, to lease that space to us because he's not using it.
Right.
And we, for the senior center parking, we can broach the subject of working out some sort of arrangement. Obviously,
Exchange.
where the old senior center is, that parking would be closer to his property. He owns
Sure.
CVS.
Oh, is that the person who owns CVS?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
He owns CVS, but the building next to CVS, which, where Paulie's is in the apartment house, he owned that too, but he sold that recently.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
I think it's a start.
thank you. The other item he had, Tony, was the outstanding easements, and there's nothing easy about these easements.
For sure.
Listen,
You can
when I
be-
first
by the way,
joined, when I
you
first
can
joined the
head
council, we had an evening devoted to it.
You can head the committee on this one.
But you just gotta make me feel warm and fuzzy and tell me, that- and Bill, probably you're the best to be able to say
Yeah.
that, as to why the borough of Tenafly does not want to broach the possibility of incurring more tax revenue by doing something with that land which goes from Knickerbocker Road all the way down to Jefferson Avenue, on both sides of.
Well, there's more than one alley.
Between.
Right.
Well, absolutely.
That's the issue. Each has to be addressed individually because each one presents its own issues. Where some property owners have usurped the property by enclosing it. These are things that would have to be addressed individually, each individual alleyway.
There's probably 50.
Then let me ask you something. If
there's
I was to
probably-
walk up the alley in the fall and get hurt, would the borough of Tenafly be responsible?
No, it's not owned by the borough. It was never dedicated. It was.
It would be probably be easier for you to pay your medical bills than to hire an attorney to figure out
Okay,
who's
but
liable.
so in
We've
theory,
done-
that land is free land.
It's no man's
we've
land?
It's
done
not
title
true.
searches on those, and the actual situation is that the original subdivider of those properties had reserved ownership of those alleyways to the actual original property owner, and never did anything with those. Never dedicated them to the borough, and never gave up ownership. Never gave actual easements to the properties to which they served, the backs. So I would agree, and I was of the opinion years ago that we should do something to try to be able to charge taxes on those properties.
So there's outstanding
but-
tax liabilities
No.
on it?
No,
No,
there
there's
aren't.
nothing.
There aren't,
But
because
if-
they're not listed as tax lots and.
Oh.
It's like an invisible, it's like an empty space on the tax map. Okay, the problem is you're dealing with probably roughly 50 different property owners, each individual home. For example, Pat Rouse lives on Columbus. He has a garage that faces Columbus.
Yeah.
There's other people that have garages that open up into the alley.
Correct.
So if you take the alley away, now these garages, they can't get in and out of, I mean, it is so complex. And then there are some alleys where one end is fenced in because some guy just encroached on it.
Right.
So each one of these 50 people would have to be dealt with in a different manner. Many of them don't want it or don't want to get involved for either selfish reasons or because they don't need it and they don't use it.
Does anyone still use the alleyway?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
They
some
go to
people,
a street.
some people have to use the alleyways
To get to
because
their garages.
it's the only way their garage opens up into it.
Oh.
And I would offer anybody that's not familiar with the alleyways, I'd give you a tour. It'd take us 15
Oh,
minutes.
I'd like to see that.
But it's,
I went there many years
You'd be
ago, but I
shaking.
wouldn't mind going again because I.
Nothing's changed.
Me either.
I walked with Matt Rouse, he took me on the tour.
They were originally,
Yeah,
they
I
were
had the cat
originally,
rouse too.
I think, originally intended to be joint easements for access to the rears of the properties. I just don't think that that they took the necessary steps to do that. It was never dedicated to the borough, so it is privately owned property that benefits all the properties that are adjacent.
not all. Doesn't benefit all.
Okay, it doesn't
Some of
benefit,
them.
right. Well, that's because they've been cut off, right? Because
No, well, some people.
Some people
their
have access from the-
backyard
right.
and backs up on it, but they don't
I wonder,
have any
I
use
wonder
of
if
it.
you were,
Have a
if you
need
were to
to.
own that, like Pat, if he was to go to sell his house,
Well, lots of
would
these
the
homes.
survey show
No.
that property is his?
No.
Lots of
No.
lots of these
Sure about
homes.
that, right?
Lots of
Positive.
these homes have been
Like
sold.
sold and
In
resold.
fact, there was a gentleman. What's his name? He had a couple of football players lived up on the top of Columbus. Got divorced. You know the
Tesher.
Tesher. When he was
He was
ready
on
to
the
sell
backside.
his house, he came to talked about, because that's one of the areas where there was an alleyway that went onto the street and it abuts his property.
Right.
And over the years, it's just been landscaped. It's not his property, and he wanted to know what, if any, rights he had, or could he purchase the rights, and we don't want to get involved.
Right, it doesn't belong to the borough, and it doesn't show up on their surveys as their property. If they wanted to make an application to the court to acquire title to obtain ownership of that, they would have to do that. It has nothing to do with the borough.
See, the easiest way would be is each one of them made an application on their own, but some of them aren't going to do that, and if others do and cut off the alleyway, now certain people are going to have a problem.
Right.
So I would like you to be a committee of one and come back with us next week and tell us what you think we should do.
Well, the reason I bring it up, I've had two residents broach the subject with me as to, what are we doing?
Well,
I said, I don't have a clue.
It's not a borough issue.
no.
It's just not a borough issue because it was never dedicated to the borough. It's private ownership.
Well, Bill,
The only issue that affects the borough is theoretically the borough could tax that property.
But let me ask you a question. There was an issue with a sliver of land on Esmond Place. Okay, how many hours have you spent on?
I spent a
How
lot of
many
time.
hours?
A
20
lot of time
hours?
on that, but
Okay.
again, that's not a borough issue either.
No,
We've
but-
been doing that
but-
because we're trying to accommodate
Right,
a
but
resident.
that's one little piece.
Right.
Now multiply that times 50.
I agree.
So I mean,
It's a private property issue. And the only interest the borough has in that is that those alleyways are not being taxed. But I'd throw this into the mix. If you were to add the backs of those properties, let's say you split where there's properties on either side, you split it. Remember that we collect taxes based upon an assessment of the property. Would the value of the property, by adding that little bit on, increase its assessment? It probably wouldn't. The property would not be worth more. Let's take Pat's property. If we were to add on his half of that alleyway to his property, would it increase his assessment? It probably would not. So it really doesn't affect us financially by not taxing that, because it wouldn't increase the values of the properties that abut those significantly. So it's really a private property issue. It's something that is owned by the original developer. It was never dedicated as an easement or otherwise to the adjacent property owners. If it was, it probably wouldn't affect their property values. It's not a borough issue.
But could Pat build a garage right in the middle of that driveway?
Really,
Right behind his property.
if he did so,
There's nothing you can do.
no, if he did so, it would be.
Just there is something we could do.
Right.
He'd be building something in the setback of his property, and we wouldn't let him do it. He'd be in violation.
Well, that's
His
a
property
zoning
ends
issue.
before it gets to the alley, and he
Right.
can't.
So
he is a
nobody
setback
owns
area.
that lot.
Correct.
Well, no, someone owns that property. No, you can't say no one owns it.
Somebody, but we don't know who.
We do know who.
We do know who.
We know
And it's like
we know the, we could search back and find out who the last owner was. That doesn't mean we can find actually the contact.
Yeah, we understand that. Okay.
Please don't.
It's an interesting property issue, but
No, this
it's
is
really
this is an issue
academic.
that attorneys find
It's
interesting.
academic only.
All right, just to switch, I just wanted to ask a question about the junior fire program. We talked about 15-year-olds using it as a cadet program.
Right.
We need an ordinance for that, do we not?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
But we have to change our ordinance.
Can
to,
we work on
Do
that,
you want to call the
please?
15-year-old?
Yes.
Fire department wants to do it.
Can you amend it, please, Bill? Take a look at it.
Okay,
We want
the issue we had
50-year-olds
was on insurance.
Yeah, I thought there was.
Insurance company said it's okay as long as it's a cadet program.
I'll change to whatever age you want.
Motion to close the
15.
work session?
No, I have a more stuff for the good of the. First of all, are you finished, Tony? All right. Two issues that I need to bring up. One, in the paper last week was basically described that the council made a decision that we're going to use open funds for the extension of the
Open space
open
budget.
space area for the park over there.
Resco Park.
Yeah, and we made absolutely no decision on that, and if we cannot make any decision on that, that can be done only through a public meeting and so on. So I want to make sure that
No,
the paper records that.
Well, let's state it correctly. This body can make that decision. It would need to be approved at a
But
public
we didn't
meeting.
make the decision.
No, we did.
No, we didn't.
We did have a consensus.
I don't think so.
Well, then you
Yeah,
were at a different meeting than I
I'm
was
sorry?
at.
I don't remember that either.
I don't remember, no, there is
Well-
no.
I thought we were gonna explore the
Exactly.
price first.
I'm sorry?
I thought we were gonna explore when we received a
Exactly.
proposal. of
Exactly,
cost, and then we'll-
but we can't go out for proposals if nobody okayed,
And we don't have a consensus.
nobody okayed spending money. We only okayed the concept of using open space money, but that doesn't mean we're
Right.
using it.
Right, that's.
Right, because we
All
can't-
all that means is that, we have the
Right.
ability to
We have
move
the ability
forward.
to use,
Yes, okay.
That's
Now we're
all.
on the same
And
page.
then if the committee comes back with a plan for a park that costs $100,000, then the governing body has to decide, do they want to use $100,000 of the open space recreation and historic fund? But we can't go forward with that if there's no potential funding.
well,
So
potential funds
this
can
is
be from
potential
general
funding.
funds, can be from any place. So that's not an issue because we can put it as part of the capital if we want to. So
That's not what we decided. We
I don't
decided,
think that we decided anything on this.
well, we certainly didn't decide to put it as capital.
We didn't decide either that nor the other.
I think all we decided was to investigate.
To investigate,
That's what we
exactly.
decided to do.
Only to investigate. All right, the second part is we have a contract with HAR, and it's a 2-year contract for providing a nurse, and that's $18,000. And the nurse is here for about 6 hours a month, and she does some other stuff. What we would like to do is to have the
Who's
contract.
we? Who's we? You say we.
Yeah,
Who's
us
we?
and the senior center is to have this one,
I'm sorry?
and the senior committee,
Yeah.
to have that one only for 1 year, because once we hire the actual coordinator, which we might want to make it a nurse, we want to look at next year, how are we going to
When
combine?
did the senior committee decide this?
We met this afternoon,
How many people met?
3 people.
Okay, that's not a committee.
All right, look, we trying to make over here, we're gonna have a hard contract coming here for us to approve. It's a 2-year contract, provides nursing for 6 hours a month for $18,000.
That's just part of the contract.
Part of it. And what we want to make sure is that we only look for the moment for 1 year. Once we know the coordination between the new administrator and possible a nurse or so, we can look at the next year, the following year for, so it's very simple. We like to have a contract only for 1 year rather than 2 years.
It's not, first of all, it's not the purview of the senior committee, which hasn't met,
It's the
to do
purview of
this.
the council.
All right,
That's why I
so-
bring it up with the council.
But don't represent it as a committee decision, because the committee did not decide this.
So what?
All right, we have you and we have Gloria Lane.
And we have
that-
the Board of Health.
And we have the Board of Health that is in favor of this. So-
What is, can I ask a question about details? What is the details? When is the contract up? When is it up for renewal? What is
The
going on?
contract was just approved.
We just did it, right?
So,
So it's a moot point
So
then?
it's,
No, we didn't get approved by the council.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it
Yes,
did.
it did? That's too late.
Anything else?
It's probably cheaper that way. Hire narrow nurse is probably a bad
Way
idea.
more cheaper than that.
Is there anything else?
No. Currently-
Motion to close the work session and go
That's
into the public meeting?
Cheaper.
so moved.
All in favor?
Second, or aye,
Per month?
whatever.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm trying to understand
No,
the role
that's-
of the Bergen
that's for
County
nurses.
District.
I don't
What
remember
is
the original.
that? What do they do? What is
When was the
that?
contract?
Just an
You're not getting a call.
Okay, once again, good evening, everyone. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Here.
Councilmember Bash?
Here.
Councilmember Hader?
Here.
Councilmember Park?
Here.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Here.
Councilmember Zina?
Here.
Mayor Rustin?
Here. And revisions to the agenda?
We have none?
Excellent. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following sets of minutes. February 2nd, the work session and the closed session. February 6th, the budget meeting. February 9th, the regular meeting and the closed session. And February 16th, the budget meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Please call, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comments on anything on the agenda or not on the agenda? Anybody care to speak?
Johanna Gamro, Rivian Road. I'm going to talk about the sound system in Highland Park. I didn't know what really was proposed, so that's why I came tonight. And I've heard talk about things that could go on in Highland Park related to chamber activities. They were out there for about a year. And one thing that I am concerned about is that there's precious little open space left in Tenafly, as we all know. And one of the reasons why people move here is because it is quiet, it's green, it's leafy, and we're free from extraneous noise. And if this new sound system setup is going to increase the noise, for instance, having music playing to attract people to come into town and then shop or something like that, I think that's the wrong use of a public system like that. I think when we were doing the rail, which took 2 years, 7 days a week, all day long, emailing all day long, even when I was on vacation. The one component of that was, one objection was the noise that this train was going to make. When the train was here before that, it was 3 trips in the morning, 3 trips in the evening. And then the new train was every 6 minutes, blowing the whistle, and there's 5 intersections 4 times. And the noise would have been just tremendous. That was one component in the opposition to the rail. And I think it's the same thing with introducing a sound system that could be used more than maybe it should be used. And that's what I'm concerned about, is that you explore what possible uses are. Once it's installed, then it could be uses. I haven't heard really all of the possibilities for the uses. And so I'd like to hear that from the council. What are the limitations? What is acceptable, what isn't acceptable? Kids have, their ears plugged up with music all the time. I mean, I think the iPhone's only been around since 2006. And look what's happened in our society. The world has changed dramatically because of it. The internet has changed everything. And so you have to think about these things. What are the consequences of installing that? And this is a very unique part of northern New Jersey because it is different from Manhattan. I lived in Manhattan, I worked in Manhattan, I know what noise is. And it's a precious place to be. And once you give it up, you can't get it back. So I wish that the council would discuss that aspect of installing or allowing the system to be installed. I think it's worthy of a discussion because I called about, 10 people, all different parts of the community. Because after working on the rail and the nature center, you get to meet a lot of people of different stripes, but you're working together towards one goal. And you get to know them very well. So I called a few different kinds of people, and the reaction, oh, what? And so I wish I could hear that discussion. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Now I understand why the two of you aren't sitting together. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, it's
I know, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
No, they made it a public discussion, so
Okay.
we can talk to still, as we always do. I thought I told you already what we want to do.
I'll entertain a motion to
Well, I
approve.
didn't.
Thank you, Joanne. Who's on first? I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hader?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to go to public hearings now.
Yes.
You want to read this one?
Yeah,
Please.
I'll do that.
Oh, wait, Lizette, you're going to read the title first?
The following ordinance published herewith was first read by title only on February 9, 2016, and posted on the bulletin board of the lobby of the Municipal Center. Ordinance number 16-04, an ordinance amending sanitary sewer easement on Lot 2 in Block 192C.
Yeah, so I move to pass.
Hold on. Any public comment on this ordinance?
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
I move to pass and adopt the second and final reading, ordinance 16-04, that notice of same shall be published according to law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Barzalato?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hader?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefanowitz?
Yes.
Councilmember Zina?
Yes.
Any roll?
Didn't you have to read the ordinance or not?
I read it already.
Just
It's just short.
any old business? New business? Committee reports. Dan?
The Environment Committee and the team met Thursday, and the green team is moving along with the planning of the Earth Day Fair, which is April 23rd, so this Saturday, will be at the Fresco Community Center. The environmental committee met, and they also saw the article about the Open Space Trust Fund, and we're a little worried about it. I told them we didn't exactly commit the funds yet, but we were looking into it as an option. They also proposed different applications of the fund, which I can email to everybody, but the gist of it is looking for pocket parks on the west side of Knickerbocker where there's no parks. Existing parks and incremental expansions to those parks. New parks such as a dog park, playground, better creature figure in Roseville Commons. These are all things we're going to start looking into this year. That's it.
Thank you. Mark, do you have anything?
Just an announcement from the Chamber of Commerce that most of us know up here, Wednesday, March 2nd at 6:30, Axier. Senator Weinberg will be there honoring the 2001 Best of Tenafly recipients. So the public goes there. So come and enjoy it.
John? John?
Board of Adjustment met, the Lubavitch traffic reports were presented, and they will continue the meeting on March 6th, I think. They had 2 applications, 4 Lawrence Parkway for side yard, which was approved, and 172 Serpentine again side yard, which was approved.
There is no report, just want to make a public announcement. The new committee to look at the town center will be meeting on Thursday at 7:30 in the Wilson Room here, so everybody knows it.
Thank you. Paul?
The Welcome Committee met and did flyers to prepare for the annual new resident tree tapping at the Nature Center.
When is that, do you know? Again?
March, it's in March, isn't it? March 20th.
Thank you.
I have one question, Shama. This 172 Serpentine, the side yard variance, was that their garage? Because that's in a historic zone, so I was just wondering if, I think, all right, it was,
I can get you the information on this.
no problem. Just curious. Thank you.
Okay, there are no mayor's remarks. We have a closed session tonight.
We do.
Would you please,
Sure.
read?
Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:12, Mayor Council of the Borough of Tenafly. Going to close executive session for the following matters. First, we have a collective bargaining matter, and that's just a discussion on a grievance on longevity matter. We have a personal matter that involves workers' compensation claims concerning extended sick leave updates on various people. And lastly, we have some litigation matters to discuss. One is the Pirelli versus Borough of Tenafly, and the second is just an update again on Lannon versus Borough of Tenafly. You'll also be taken over this meeting and released to the public at the time matters are resolved. After this closing of session, the Mayor Council will reconvene in the Richard T. Wilson Committee room to adjourn this public meeting.
Motion to go into close.
So
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant trip home.